Chapter 2. Living on my own terms. The day I first realized that I didn't have to approach the world like everyone else did was the day I started living my own life. New opportunities seemed to open up around me. In reality, I was opening the doors myself. Simply because for the first time in my life, I was coming to understand that I could be more in control. At around the same time that I entered high school and was just beginning to explore this newfound autonomy, wireless routers were introduced into the commercial market. Lucky for me, the early models of these wireless routers were equipped with a flawed encryption called WEP, which stands for Wired Equivalent Privacy. As a paper published by students at the University of California, Berkeley pointed out, major defects in the way the WEP encryption was built meant that it was fairly easy to penetrate those routers. I studied that paper religiously, quickly understanding that I could use this fault to get access to the internet from my home. All that was required was 8 to 16 minutes of work, a little bit of brute force, and of course the right tools. For a sheltered Orthodox Jewish kid with little access to the world beyond my community, the faulty routers presented an exciting new possibility. Getting the tools was the only challenge. In order to pull this off, I needed 8 20-foot cables and 8 wireless and Wi-Fi keys, and boy were they expensive. Thankfully, I had just come into some Bar Mitzvah money. When the parts came in, I removed the lights so they wouldn't be noticed by anyone passing by, taped the keys to my roof, and voila. Access to the internet, a window into the outside world, was mine. By setting up the internet in my house, I had taken matters into my own hands. Being able to connect to the World Wide Web transformed my tiny bedroom into a portal to knowledge and understanding that ignited within me a deep love and appreciation for computers. My room became my sanctuary, and I spent countless hours surfing the web, learning and finding new strengths that had not been as evident before in the physical world. For example, while I might not have been particularly good at school, I learned that I was a natural at building and fixing computers and their components. It was through this experience that my computer repair shop was born, and I began to build up both my reputation and my independence. This long anecdote is all to say that sometimes all you need to get started is to have a good idea and to act on it. You don't necessarily need to ask permission from anyone else to start improving your life. Instead, take a look around. Recognize what skills you already have in your arsenal, and see if you can use the resources in your environment to make connections and remove the obstacles that are blocking your path. In my case, having no internet at home was holding me back. So I found a bit of research that would solve my problem, and instead of spending my bar mitzvah money on clothes or games, or hiding it away in a savings account like my friends might have done, I invested it in the remedy. Once you begin to improve your situation on your own, even in the smallest way, you may just find that the rest will fall into place. I graduated from high school in 2007. Despite my prowess with computers, my mom still had high hopes that I could be convinced to become a rabbi. Upon this conviction, she sent me to Israel to pursue further religious studies. The plan didn't exactly go the way my mom had intended. 1 year away from home launched me out of my comfort zone and exposed me to radically different views on life. At home, I had been fairly isolated. My room, with all of its gadgets, had been my refuge. In Israel, I was suddenly flung into a highly social environment. In a place where I was meant to be following a more religious path, I found myself surrounded by a more secular society, made friends with the opposite gender, and with people from different backgrounds. It was there that I finally saw with my own eyes how other people, regular people, lived. Up until that point, all I had known was the Orthodox Jewish way of life. Now I saw that my childhood experiences were far from normal. Breakdancing helped me bridge the gap between my life at home in Montreal and this new reality in Israel. Every Monday, I headed over to a famous place in downtown Jerusalem called Kikar Amerikayim, which is Hebrew for the American sector, where I breakdanced on a giant stone chessboard. My experiences with breakdancing serve as the perfect representation of this transitional period. Breakdancing introduced a completely new dynamic to my life. It required me to learn brand new skills and ways of being, and it was a catalyst for forging meaningful connections and building lasting friendships. Breakdancing also placed me at the center of attention, which was a strange feeling for me. Before then, I had always seen myself as someone who belonged on the sidelines. Through breakdancing, I gained the courage to enter unfamiliar territory and learned to see myself as a leader, not a follower. However, my experience in Israel was short-lived. After 1 year, I had to return home for multiple reasons. To start with, it was clear to my mom from the photos arriving home, showing me with girls and wearing jeans, that I was far from the path of becoming a rabbi. Moreover, if I had stayed longer in Israel, I might have been drafted into the army, which was not how I envisioned spending the next stage of my life. Lastly, the year I had spent in Israel, while eye-opening in many other ways, had been a year of fun self-exploration, not academics. I felt the pressure from my parents to pursue a more serious path forward, and that is what I also wanted. I packed up my bags with the new knowledge I acquired about the world and myself in my back pocket, and returned home to Montreal to study computer science at Dawson College. I left Israel with the sense that I had become more versatile in my talents. Because of this year away, I was able to develop the social skills that would later become crucial for the networking and management component required for running my own businesses. I also returned home more of a leader, having come to understand through breakdancing that leading does not mean being the best, but relating to others and cultivating a wider set of skills. It was clear to me then, as it is now, that we are only as strong as our greatest weakness. So, if you take anything away from my experience in Israel, it is that you should never turn down the opportunity to leave your comfort zone and develop new skills inside or outside of an academic environment. In Israel, I didn't become the best student, but I discovered how to walk and exist in many other ways. These lessons were just as valid as any of what I was taught inside a school. Nonetheless, I still had a lot to learn.